Racist algorithms and toxic rainbow. Here we go. Let's just get straight to it. The algorithms that detect hate speech online are biased against black people. So this is a story that came out in August. And what I'm going to do is we're going to go through this story right here. And then I'm going to transition to the next topic. But I'm going to give receipts the whole way. This isn't one of those where it's my opinion. This isn't one of those where I think this is what's going on. This one is receipts included. So just because we're talking about the algorithms, let me just say this. One way to combat the algorithms, to neutralize the algorithms to some degree, is by liking, sharing, commenting. Okay? That is how you're able to neutralize the algorithms to one degree. And throughout this presentation, you're going to see exactly why this is necessary and how this is implemented in a way that is actually detrimental to us as a people. No jokes, all receipts. Let's go. Platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are banking on developing artificial intelligence technology to help stop the spread of hateful speech on their networks. The idea is that complex algorithms that use natural language processing will flag racist or violent speech faster and better than human beings possibly can. Doing this effectively is more urgent than ever in light of the recent mass shootings and violence linked to hate speech online. But two new studies show that AI trained to identify hate speech may actually end up amplifying racial bias. In one study, researchers found that leading AI models for processing hate speech were 1.5 times more likely to flag tweets as offensive or hateful when they're written by African Americans, and 2.2 times more likely to flag tweets written in African American English, which is commonly spoken by black people in the US. Another study found similar widespread evidence of racial bias against black speech in 5 widely used academic data sets for studying hate speech that totaled around 155,800 Twitter posts. So it's interesting right here that they say that they do this because of mass shootings and stuff like that, but those aren't the ones that are ever flagged, arrested, or scrutinized, or prevented from doing these kind of shootings, but they're flagging things that we talk about. Okay, interesting in itself. This is in large part because what is considered offensive depends on social context. Terms that are slurred when used in some settings, like the N-word or queer, may not be in others. But algorithms and content moderators who grade the task data that teaches these algorithms how to do their job don't usually know the context of the comments they're reviewing. In other words, since this AI and these algorithms are programmed by programmers, coders, people that program, it's going to react and respond and execute the way it was programmed. So therefore, if the programmer was biased, then it's going to be programmed biasly. Both papers presented at a recent prestigious annual conference for computational linguistics show how natural language processing AI, which is often proposed as a tool to objectively identify offensive language, can amplify the same biases that human beings have. This also proves how the test data that feeds these algorithms have baked in bias from the start. That's pretty much what I was just saying. No one knows for sure if the content moderation system that Facebook, Twitter, and Google use show exactly the same biases in these studies. The technology these companies use to moderate content is proprietary, but the tech giants often turn to academics for guidance on how to better enforce standards around hate speech. When it says it's proprietary, it means that it's pretty much exclusive to their company or their brand. All right. So if top researchers are finding flaws in widely used academic data sets, that presents a significant problem for the tech industry at large. Excuse me. Anecdotally, activists have for some time accused platforms like Facebook of policing the speech of black Americans more strictly than that of white Americans. In one notable case reported by the Revel, a black woman was banned from Facebook for posting the same "Dear White People" note that many of her white friends posted without suffering any consequences. Don't forget, melanated people. That's our black Facebook, melanated people. You can find it on the App Store. You can find it just melanatedpeople.net. I mean, at least just sign up, even if you don't really use it every day. At least get an account there. But these experiments provide quantitative data to suggest that these actions are not isolated incidents but are instead emblematic of a wider issue in how offensive content is policed on social media. Flawed human. Where we at? There we go. Flawed human decisions get reflected in algorithms. Exactly. So Martin Sapp, a PhD student in computer science and engineering, and his colleagues at the University of Washington set out to study what's flagged as offensive on Twitter because of an important political conversations that happened on the platform. They first gathered more than 100,000 tweets used in two widely cited academic data sets. These tweets had been hand flagged by human beings with labels such as being hate speech, offensive, or abusive. The results were astounding. Tweets written by self identified African American users were on the average found to be 1.5 times more likely to be flagged as offensive. Researchers then applied this test data into a larger algorithmic model run using natural language processing on 56 million tweets and saw that these biases were only further reinforced. This is what you call receipts. These are receipts. This isn't opinion. This is empirical and deductive, objective data at this point. Taking the research a step further, Sapp and his colleagues decided to do something interesting. They primed workers labeling the same data to think about the user's dialect and race when deciding whether the tweet was offensive or not. The results showed that when moderators knew more about the person's tweeting, that they were significantly less likely to label the tweet as potentially offensive. At the aggregated level, racial bias against tweets associated with black speech decreased by 11%. So let me explain what this is alluding to. And some of this will be subjective because they didn't state any of this, but they kind of implied it though. If it had 11% decrease, I think what happened is the stuff that the way we may use the N word towards each other sometimes, they were able to determine that that wasn't supposed to be racist, and maybe it was flagged. Okay, but that is still 1.4 times more likely, right? I mean, it's still there's still 90% on top of that 1.5%. You dig? Plus the 2.2%, or the 2.5 or 2.2 times likely on posts that were in the ebonics as they called it. So really, this still indicates a problem because it still indicates that the reason why black voices are being flagged is because it's offensive, but offensive to whom? Meaning that when we speak about racial injustice, some people are offended. That's what it means. It means when we speak on political issues that pertain to us, some people are offended. So they were able to basically neutralize right here the percentage of, okay, well, that they were using these words, but they weren't using it. It wasn't racially offensive when you put in the context that whatever, maybe the coon and stuff like that we use and the things that we use to degrade each other. They were able to detect that, okay, we can't call that necessarily racist because it's interracial or whatever. It's race. It's something that we're using to ourselves, but that's only 11% though. So that means the rest of it that they're flagging is for reasons that we already know. These are just the receipts to show you though. So SAP study also tested the bias in the data sets and applied to an open source hate speech detecting tool for developers that's run by Jigsaw. Well, seeing that I'm getting into coding, seeing that I'm coding and getting into programming, I might as well use that open source and maybe create my own algorithm system. How about that? It's in Black Coders Up. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and drop a plug for Crypt Talk Podcast, which is a podcast, a YouTube channel that I just created to report on cryptocurrency, blockchain technology. I do some gaming on there, and later I'll be doing some coding and programming and structurals and stuff like that on there. Black Coders Up. I'm telling you. JavaScript, Python. Python is real good for the AI stuff. I don't want to, go away from the subject, but here we go. So the open source tool called Respective API is used by news organizations such as the New York Times to help moderate comments online. It's the publicity available version. It's the publicly available version of the underlying technology that's used throughout Google for its own products as well. Blockchain Crypto Gang Facebook group. We got to start getting on some technological levels, man. So researchers found that the data run through prospective APIs showed a significant bias against African American speech, labeling those tweets as toxic more often. Toxic. You know how they like to use that toxic word when implying to us? There it goes again. It's algorithmically encoded into people's brains at this point, not just on the internet. There are lots of different biases that can arrive in machine learning tools. Jigsaw COO Dan Kieserling told Recode, acknowledging that prospective API's model or any hate speech detecting model isn't perfect. We welcome more research in this field. Kieserling said that his team is in touch with the authors of the report and that the company is constantly refining this model to be more fair. But the problem is bigger than any model or data set. Thomas Davison, a researcher at Cornell University, ran a study similar to SAP's division, or Davison and his colleagues tested racial biases by training a model with data sets including the ones that SAP used, plus three more. Researchers also found substantial racial bias against African Americans in all of the data tested. So just come on, let's just use common sense, y'all. Okay, so I code. Okay, I won't call myself a developer, although I have developed certain apps and websites, but I'm still really trying to master this craft. But I know enough to know that programming is what you do to give instructions to a computer or an app. You program it in. So if you yourself are already biased and you're programming this from that perspective, then you're gonna get biased results. It's gonna react. It's gonna act the way you programmed it to act. So if you are in your mind racist or biased in any kind of way, and you're programming the app, then the app is gonna be biased and racist. If this is what offends you, then that's what's gonna trigger your program. So the way that you can offset that, like I said, when it comes to this kind of information, you have to like, share, subscribe. You have to do all those things because that will um, create a counter algorithm that shows favor towards that information or that whatever you're liking, and that means you'll see more of it, and it means it will suggest it to more people that also have a certain taste for things the same way you do. But on a deeper level, in order to address this, it's going to take black coders and programmers, and it's going to take them inputting data from a more diverse perspective. Meaning that they have to have a conversation proportionally with the population and get the feedback from them and then input it that way in scale. Then that way it will balance out and it will actually be more fair or more accurate. But of course, they're not going to tell you this because you don't know this if you don't program. Okay, what we're drawing attention to is the quality of the data coming into these models. Davison told Recode, you can have the most sophisticated neural network model, but the data is biased because humans are deciding what's hate speech and what's not. That's pretty much alluding to what I just said. Both researchers offered the same warning. Automated systems for flagging hateful speech may be turning out flawed results because the input was flawed. But there's also no specific consensus on what to do about it. The researchers and others have advocated for giving moderators more social context about the people writing tweets, but that can prove tricky. When Facebook's content moderation guidelines are already under scrutiny, would giving moderators more context open the door for more criticism, particularly from conservatives? And when content moderators at Facebook and other companies are reportedly working under grueling conditions and are pressured to rate content as offensive or not, making more nuanced decisions could make a difficult job even harder. Well, one easy. Let me go ahead and finish this first. Nevertheless, these studies crack open the fantasy that AI will be able to rescue tech companies from making the complex decisions needed to police hateful speech on their platforms. These algorithms may seem like an easy solution to a complex problem, but they can have unintended consequences. Another reason why, if y'all don't understand, let me talk to my people. And all kind of people will see this. Let me speak to my. Listen, man. If you're tech savvy, if you're a blurred, we need blurs, man. If you wanna, if you don't know what way you want to go career wise, you think about getting retrained for something, coding, programming, software engineering, AI, ML, which is machine learning. That's what you want to do. And in most cases, you have to start by teaching yourself. You have to teach yourself a certain amount of that kind of information, coding and stuff. And so I would say Solidity, JavaScript, Python, which means you're going to get a little HTML and CSS as well. I mean, but if you're a blurred, if you can study, if you're self-motivated, if you're self-taught type of person, then that's what you do. And that's going to open all kind of doors. And if you want to know more about that, Blockchain Crypto Gang Facebook group, Crypt Talk on Anchor and Spotify, or Crypt Talk Podcast YouTube channel, subscribe. Now let me go ahead and as we make this transition, I'm gonna address a little bit more of the algorithm with some more receipts, and I'm also gonna address the toxic rainbow in that transition at the same time. So let's start it off with let's keep to the algorithm real quick. So when we say algorithms affect things, I want you to keep in mind, I want you to see this right here. So I have 3 YouTube channels. Okay, this is my main YouTube channel right here. I got 4.8 thousand subscribers, right? So almost 5,000 subscribers, 4,800 subscribers. Now, before my channel started getting flagged, attacked, and videos pulled and demonetized, which it is right now, and I can't go live, before all that kind of stuff started happening a couple years ago, I would easily be able to get hundreds of views, thousands of views, even when I only had 20 subscribers, 30 subscribers. Even when I didn't have a Facebook to share it to, when I didn't understand anything about tagging, I would just put a video up and boom, it would get thousands of views. Some of them even have hundreds of thousands of views. Once my channel start coming under attack, these are the kind of numbers that I get. This is a popping video for me. For a week, less than a week, 114 views, even though I have 5,000 subscribers nearly. Now you might say, well, maybe that's just not a popular video. Maybe people don't like it. Okay, well, look at this right here. This is my other YouTube channel. I loaded both of these videos around the same time, less than a week ago. 44 subscribers, 790 views. Okay? 790 views, 44 subscribers. 114 views, almost 5,000 subscribers. So right here I have over 100 times more subscribers, literally over 100 times more subscribers. Yet I got about 1/8 of the views. It's because this channel has been under attack so much that the algorithms now don't make the suggestions when people are watching similar stuff. It doesn't pop up in their feed even if they subscribe to me. They're not getting the notifications, which is common. That happens a lot. But it's also not in the suggested feed of the timeline for YouTube. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm going to show you another video which is going to prove that they have been attacking my channel. But I'm just showing you, like, this is due to algorithms. So in order to offset that without getting into the coding and programming and depending on them to enter the data non-biasedly, what you have to do, you have to like, comment, share, because then that will spread that information and that will get it up there. And I'm going to show you why that's of the utmost importance coming up. Remember, this is all receipts. This ain't my opinion. I'm showing you receipts and facts. Now, first, as we transition to the toxic rainbow, and before you understand why I'm calling it the toxic rainbow, surely I know some people are being offended right now, but I'm just going to keep the real uncut. I'm going to kick it real and uncut. I'm not going to drop any F-bombs. I'm not going to do any of that. So if this does get suspended, removed, taken down, sanctioned, or anything like that, then, of course, that will only further support why I'm saying what I'm saying. Here's a video. This happened. And it was worse before that. They levied some of the sanctions off of me for this video. But what's interesting about this is that the video, I forgot how long the video is, but they flagged it before anybody could have actually watched the whole video. So maybe it's because of what I named it. So this is how on code they are about protecting their agenda. Maybe we should learn from that in itself. Maybe we should learn from the fact that, hey, you can't say anything, express yourself or anything when it comes to something that makes them feel like you're not 100% riding for them. Because you have to 100% ride for them or you're expelled and you're a bigot and all these other things. But remember the video that I did when I showed you what they were doing as a community to try to take Sandra Bland's story or documentary from Aaron. Now she didn't say anything. Just watch the video because I read from you and I showed you the receipts of what she said, and it was not inflammatory at all. But they still, as a group, said we have to get this documentary pulled because she's anti or whatever, homophobic. So I just want you to listen to this real quick. So you have to hit the button to proceed because this is how they do. It's a 11-minute video. I'm going to start it at about a minute. So I think that's about where we're going to want to go with it.
So you can just come check us out. You know, brothers like myself and brother Netiquette, you know, we are underestimated. You know what I'm saying? We will be considered not the underdogs, but the under guys. Okay? So you can check it out because we bringing all facts.
Exactly. Go ahead with that paragraph, brother.
Okay, yes, sir. I'm going to read a paragraph, maybe a couple paragraphs, but it's only about 2 pages long, dear family. And this is an actual reprinted from the U.S. Congressional Record. Homosexual activist outlines goals of homosexual movement. Okay, this guy was a gay revolutionary. Okay, but it's so nefarious. What he's trying to implement is so nefarious. It resembles something like the Illuminati. Okay, so here it is. We shall Sodom. It starts off like this. Listen to it. We shall sodomize your son, emblem of your feeble masculinity, of your shallow dreams and vulgar lies. We shall seduce them in your schools, in your dormitories, in your gymnasiums, in your locker rooms, in your sports arenas, in your seminaries, in your youth groups, in your movie theaters, bathrooms, in your army bunkhouses, in your truck stops, in your all-male club, in your houses of Congress. Whenever men are with men together, you soon shall become our minions and do our bidding. They will recast in our image. They will come to crave and adore us. Okay, that just shows you the wickedness that's going to take place in just one paragraph. And just one paragraph, they said they're gonna sodomize your boys, sodomize men, no matter where they find men at. You know what I mean?
Algorithms, propaganda, toxic rainbow. See, because as we're being flooded with this kind of propaganda, they're suppressing our expression of our experience. And when we speak upon our own needs, it gets suppressed. But this is all propaganda right here. 65% this and that. What they're doing is they're trying to normalize. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, 73% are in favor of this, and the ones that aren't, there's something wrong with you. It's kind of like the same thing that weird chicks that are know they're up to no good will do when they call you a weirdo for no reason. When they imply that you might be a gay or a pedophile if you don't agree with something. When they imply that they know more about men than men know. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of the same kind of thing that a lot of homosexuals will do when, if you don't agree with their lifestyle, they'll imply that you're probably just suppressing the gay in you type of shit. This is part of the propaganda, and the algorithm supports that as it suppresses our voice. And I'm going to show you the danger of that in upcoming with more tangible receipts that affect your life. Just wait until you get to there, man. So you don't ever see the LGBT going against the P. The P has attached themselves. They're more normalizing and easing this into it, but it's not even easing it no more. At first, years ago, you could say they were just easing it in, but now it's not. But this is cool. This is what is being normalized to the point to where, look, always we'll even tell you that we're take the woman fit, even though we know that the service that they provide is only for women. You got, if you want to be lesbian, that's cool, but it's interesting that you don't need a man, but you need a woman that dresses and acts like a man and that uses synthetic imitations of the male anatomy. We have, as the gay agenda said they're gonna do. Now remember, that was a congressional record. Michael Swift Gay Manifesto, 1987. That wasn't our words. That wasn't Malcolm Flex's words. That wasn't Netterket, Jay Dizzle's words. That's what they said they're gonna do. And now you see books like the Gay BCs being sold to introduce our children into sexual activity, but it gets worse. I hate to say it, but it does. So y'all think that people are just speaking about this because we hate gays and we're afraid? No. Did these children have a chance to choose their sexuality, or are kids always sexual, as Sigmund Freud said? Huh? At the same time, we're trying to fight for reparations. You have people in the government that are suggesting that we need to do reparations for homosexuals. Just bypass the 400 years that we've been here, what I'm saying, fighting under systematic oppression and literally being slaves, enslaved, but they deserve the reparations. And of course, they use this homosexual wannabe rapper with less of a social media following than I have. And then, of course, they're going to normalize it, popularize it. You see, they have to use us in order to justify them being an oppressed civil rights group. They have to use us as the poster child to sell this because, first of all, we make things trend to the larger society, and we're the ones that resist it the most. So we're the target at this. As the algorithms suppress our voice to tell our story to each other and to the world, it bombards us and forces us to accept the normalization of this, even if most of our people don't support it. I don't have to explain this. You see what it is. I got more receipts, y'all. I'm gonna show you how this isn't my opinion or my I feel this way because I'm gonna show you the dangers of society. It's not because personally I don't agree with their lifestyle. If that's all it was, then I wouldn't have nothing to say about it because that's their business. But here we go. Because remember, we seen with the Rainbow Crew comes the normalization of pedophilia, and they're not disassociating themselves, right? And then the algorithms, right? So check this out. Virginia Democrat once jailed for underage sex selected to state senate. Now, let me ask you a question. Algorithmically, do you think these sisters know that this is a pedophile that they have their children in the lap of and that they obviously probably voted for? No, they don't know because any information that is against him was suppressed by the algorithms, and just all the stuff that normalizes it and makes people want to gravitate towards him was amplified. And because people like me, whose voices are suppressed, couldn't get that information. And let's see why this information would have been important to get to the people. A Democratic lawmaker in Virginia who was jailed for 6 months in 2015 for having sex with an underage secretary was elected to the state legislator last week. Report said. Joe Morrissey was elected to Virginia State Senate on Tuesday, easily defeating independent Waylon Ross in the district that covers parts of Richmond and the surrounding areas. I think that is a melanated district, right? Probably the strongest concentration of melanin within Virginia. That's going to be significant coming up. So he easily defeats the independent. So the algorithms, once again, of course, a Democrat and Republican are going to algorithmically be more in tune with whoever programmed the algorithms on the internet because they're the biggest parties. They're the ones that are, what I'm saying, kind of like anybody that runs independent. You don't really have a chance. You're not getting no media coverage. You're not getting into debates. You're not getting none of that, and you're going to be suppressed in the algorithms. Even if in person people are filling up the stadium, even more so than these other cats, which has been the case before. So check this out. Morrissey spent 6 months in jail as a state legislator. He pleaded guilty to having sex with his 17-year-old secretary. Morrissey, 62, and the woman, Myrna Pride, stayed together and have since married and have 3 children. So he went to jail for that, came out, still married it, on some Woody Harris Woody Allen, I think, whatever. Um, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis Presley thing, but they're not seen as predators. But guess who is? R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson. Algorithms, Toxic Rainbow. Let's go. In 2016, Morrissey ran an unsuccessful campaign to be Richmond's mayor. Pay attention. And later had his law license revoked according to the report. So we're talking about algorithms, right? So here we go. We're talking about algorithms and information being suppressed or whatnot, right? Well, check it out. How is he a state senator, but he couldn't even win his mayor race and he had his law license revoked? Because the people in the city knew about his crimes against children more so than those throughout the state who weren't in that metropolis of Richmond. So in other words, the people in Richmond, they were aware of this information, so he didn't have a chance becoming a mayor, and even the local officials decided to revoke his law license. But he ended up doubling up and doubling back on some state senator tip. Why? Because the outskirts around the big city where everybody knew, they didn't know as much. They didn't have access to the same information. It was probably only ran in local news more so than state news. So they didn't have the information because anybody who speaks on this kind of stuff, the voices get suppressed, but not his campaign ads. So he still gets elected into the state senate. His election was part of a Democratic wave in Virginia that secured the entire state government to the party. Okay, so that's one story because obviously, if they're suppressing certain voices and allowing others, and they're normalizing LGBT, then and LGBT is accepting the P, which is the pedophile, then you shouldn't be surprised so much when you see state governors with children on their lap who have been convicted for sex with minors. Shouldn't be surprised. And obviously, these women probably don't know that. They voted for him on some Democratic ish, but they didn't check his resume because I'm sure it wasn't easy to find. Algorithms. Texas school district mandates teaching kids how to have anal sex. So remember, another thing, when you just saw that video, the gay manifesto, and they were talking about we're going to infiltrate the schools, the government, the this, the that. Well, here's the infiltration of the government, if you want to call it that. State senator, lawmaker, rainbow crew. It's agenda. It's not just a preference, and we're just not. We don't like them because of their preference. That has nothing to do with it. Here we go. Now it's in the schools, right? To the point where they're actually teaching kids, mandate teaching kids how to have anal sex. This story gets worse, man. All right. The sex and gender revolutionaries have taken over the Austin Independent School District without firing a single shot. In spite of overwhelming opposition from parents and pastors, the district's trustees voted early Tuesday morning to implement a pornographic sex education policy that includes instruction on anal sex and how to place a condom on an erect penis. This is from this year, just in case y'all thought we were lacking over here. These are receipts. This is about a week and a half old, man. This is recent. If you ain't heard about it, there's a reason. The father of a fifth grader demand to know who gave the school district the right to teach his child how to have anal and oral sex. Who gave you the right? Austin ISD, you've overstepped, the rightfully frustrated dad said. The radical sex education policy will provide graphic instruction on gender identity and mandated support of LGBT movement. See, that's what agenda means. It means it's mandated. It doesn't mean that we're going to give you a choice. Doesn't mean that you can have a discussion and weigh both sides, pros and cons, or have a someone who agrees and disagrees, and you can have an actual discussion about it. No, it's mandated. So if you don't go with it, the algorithms are going to go against you. If you don't go with it, it's because you're a bigot, a homophobe. You're all these um, uh, words that are degrading. And it also means that the protection is leaned on the side of the LGBT. And if you don't believe me, wait till you see this next story. Students, in matter of fact, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, share, comment, make sure you help with the algorithm process. I'm giving you straight game with receipts. With receipts. And I'm doing that on a technological and an economic level with the blockchain crypto gang and the Cryptcock podcast channel. It's stuff that you don't have to be a baller to start to do some of these moves, man. If my broke ass can do it, you can do it. Trust me. Let me continue. The school district will begin instructing students to no longer use words like mother and father. Oh, excuse me, I skipped the bar. Students in grade school and middle school will be taught how to get an abortion or obtain birth control pills without parental permission or consent. This is grade school and middle school. I think that means elementary and junior high. I hear we would call it elementary and junior high school. So this is elementary and junior high. Okay? Yes, the school will be. They'll also be instructing students to no longer use words like mother and father. This is a school. So Michael Swift, the Gay Manifesto, said that we're gonna basically take over your schools and everything like that. Well, is he making good? Huh? Use gender exclusive language. The district material mandates it is important to avoid terms which refer to only male or female identities when speaking with young children, as they can limit their understanding of gender into binaries and could exclude children who may not identify with these identities. Let me ask you a serious question. How many times have you ever met or heard of a child who even considers another gender besides boy or girl, unless that's been introduced to them? Children don't even grow up with the idea that they could be a different gender. The idea is a millennium, millions of years of existence on this earth have already programmed us to the understanding that there are only two genders. Yes, once in every blue, and once every 1 million people, there might be somebody who has a defect that they have both or something. So we're gonna now throw off the whole pronoun game for something we may never ever encounter. But at the same time, they're making these secessions this quick, mandating them. They can't mandate anytime there's hate crime against us. They can't mandate any justice that levels the playing field for the discrimination of our people. They can't mandate some reparations. They can't mandate that police are held accountable for murdering us. But they can mandate some things to protect everybody else, though, and to make them force their super micro minority population to be accepted by everybody else. But people who actually built the country and represent a big chunk of the population still have to fight after centuries for basic rights. And I don't want to hear none of that. It's because of the way you're classifying yourself. Bullshit. Because what's rainbow in the law? Let's cut it out. You know what it is, man. Let's go. I didn't mean to even get hyped like that, man. But let's look at this. Texas Values, one of the state's leading family advocate groups. Okay, here we go. The district's curriculum recommends integrating words like parents or guardians instead of mom or dad. The Texas Values, one of the state's leading family advocacy groups, warned that the Austin ISD, I think that's Independent School District, was sending a message that people of faith are no longer welcome in the school district. Austin IUD has broken the sacred trust between school and parent. Texas Values spokeswoman or spokesman David Wells said in a statement, Austin parents have no reason to entrust their children to a school district that welcomes sex criminals and sexually explicit materials in the school. To force this kind of pornography on children is nothing more than government sanctioned child abuse. The district's policy is all about grooming children for sex. One parent declared the curriculum is an attack on Christianity and family and on parental rights. So this source is obviously a faith-based source. However, at least they're saying something. But remember, to the rest of you so-called Christians in the church who say you believe in the book, and you condemn everybody else for not believing in the book, and you condemn those who don't believe in your belief, but you don't even follow your own book enough to condemn an act that, according to the book, is not only not permittable but punishable by death. You won't even stand up against this, and I'm going to show you why. The irony of that in the very next story. But let me conclude. Those speaking on behalf of the plan included a 9-year-old child, a fourth grader. Oh, here we go. More than 100 citizens spoke on Monday night's district meeting, and overwhelmingly majority were opposed to the policy. So they don't want it. Those speaking on behalf of the plan included a 9-year-old child, a fourth grader, the parent of a transgender second grader, and a lady who identified by the pronoun they them, and some gal wearing a t-shirt that read, "I met God, they're queer, y'all." So they orchestrated and fabricated an artificial pro policy group because it's called agenda, because they're trying to rig the algorithms. Don't forget that. But I knew the fix was in before the debate even commenced. A good many of the district trustees had already planted LGBT and transgender flags on their desks. So these are people of authority. These are district trustees. See, so because they've infiltrated to that level, and because of that, they program the algorithms to normalize it. They give the impression that so many people are for it, and if you're not for it, you're in the minority, like that post that I showed you. If you're not for it, you're in the minority, and you're a weirdo. You're going against human rights. We're the authority. We're telling you what's right. This is what it's supposed to be. You're gonna love it, or you're gonna be silenced and punished. Because we're gonna force this, even though obviously the masses don't like it. But if they're only gonna show you on TV, they're programming your perception to believe that everybody is for this and that you would be different if you're not. But in reality, that's not the case. But because of algorithms, you're seeing that, and it's normalizing it. It's similar to the fact that crime has been down for over 20 years now. Violent crime, inner city crime, black on black crime, murders, all that has been down for over 20 years now. It hasn't just been down. If you look at the graphs, which I shared on Black I Stand Radio, I think it was called Black News versus Fake News. You can find it on Blog Talk right now. If you look at the graphs, the numbers, the data, you'll see that not only has violent crime been down for over 20 years, it is way down. It is way, way down. But the reporting of it is so high, it will program, remember, it will program you to think that if you walk outside, you just might get shot by any random person. But crime is down. Even the police shootings are actually down. You think the police shootings weren't higher when they didn't have any cameras they had to worry about? You don't think the police shootings were higher when there was no chance at all that when they can admit, back in the days when they could admit that they bombed that church and killed those black girls in Stillwater? When everybody knew that the murders of Emmett Till murdered them and they bragged about it and they still locked? You don't think that the police shooting was higher then? They just didn't have cameras back then. It's just like we've been telling white folks for the past however many decades about the police brutality and how we're treated unfair. And I understand if they didn't know at first because they didn't see it and they didn't have that same experience. I understand that. But once the Rodney King thing came out and once camcorders got more affordable and now everybody has cell phones, now you can see it. So now there's no excuse for you to still claim that we're lying about it. Let's continue though. So sadly, the sex and gender revolutionaries have already commandeered a number of public schools around the nation. Instead of teaching our kids math and science, they're trying to convince little boys that they are really little girls. So let's go ahead and just tie this back to the Gay Manifesto. They're saying it right here. These are gender revolutionaries. Heard Malcolm Flex. He said that Michael Swift was kind of like a gay revolutionary. Like this is a revolutionary on their part move. They're changing things. And why did not? How can this happen in Austin, where Alex Jones was speaking about these kind of things, but they neutralized Alex Jones? I don't. It's not that I really rock with Alex Jones, but he says some real stuff, and I can't dismiss it just because of who he is. And furthermore, he's really speaking to his people because, as we understand, there's war against us, and he understands it too. But as we understand this, the broader society don't understand that there's a war against them too. So they neutralized his voice right there in Austin, and then here we go. And if the faith-based community that ain't speaking up against this, despite this being one of the tragic abominations in your book, according to your God, who changes not, you don't speak about this. Sometimes you condone this, and the irony is as you're protecting them, this next story has many implications, including how they feel about you, including that this story didn't go viral, and this story is new. The fact that this ain't viral, but if somebody would attack one of them, it'd be viral. Check it out. Here it goes. This is a transgender woman, transgender whatever, that beat a 79-year-old man bloody with a high heel after preaching on the train. Now, the story says that he was preaching on the train. The person who actually, well, let's just go with the story. Midtown Manhattan. A 79-year-old man was attacked on a city subway last week and hit in the head with a high heel. Police said Thursday after Pix 11 News obtained video of the aftermath. I'm going to close a couple of these just so I can cut down the CPU usage. I'll have to play a video coming up here. A police spokesman said that it happened around 10:15 a.m. on October 24th in Midtown Manhattan on the number 2 train headed southbound. So what was that? A couple weeks ago? That's plenty enough time that you should have heard about it by now, right? An unknown suspect began to argue with the man while on the train, police said. They then took a high heel shoe and hit the man in the head with it, according to police. They then took the high heel shoe. Video taken after the incident posted on Instagram shows blood dripping from the man's head. The woman who posted the video online said the man was singing gospel songs on the train. The law enforcement source told Pix 11 the man was preaching. So here we go with the woman's account whose video they're using, saying one thing, they're saying another though, and they're neglecting. Because I know what you're thinking right now. Well, how do you know this was a transgender that attacked him? They never said it. Pix 11 didn't say it. The police didn't say it. How do you know? Well, this is going to go back to algorithms, programming, agenda, toxic rainbow, because when you see this right here, now remember, this is the person who posted it. This is the person that was right there. This is her recording that video right there. And what does she say? She says, what a world we live in. That some people see him preaching the word of God, so maybe he was preaching, as a threat to their lives. Damn it. As a threat to their life. Where we at? The old man right here was just singing some gospel songs and sharing the word of God to people on the train. He didn't say anything to hurt anyone. He wasn't even loud. You can barely hear him talk. But this is what he got in return from a transgender lady. So she's identifying the person that attacked as a transgender lady. This is a woman saying it's a transgender lady. Okay? Who hit him in the head with her heels, threw his Bible away, and no one didn't do anything to help but to look at the old man bleed. It's just so annoying because this old man was far away from her. I was just so mad, and I felt I needed to do something to help him because he was bleeding so much, too much. He's just an old man. He doesn't deserve this. Justice indeed. Please tag the right people who need to see this. This old man needs justice because the lady got away. See the next post to see how terrified this old man was. Okay. So he's just reading the Bible, gospel, transgender person just attacked him, got away with it. Now, do you think that if a Christian or if a black man attacked a transgender, don't you think that would have went viral and they would have called that hate speech in a minute? They didn't mention the race of this transgender. I wonder why. I don't know. Makes me think they might be white because then they can't call, because this that could be a hate crime, but they're not going to charge a transgender with a hate crime against black people. But a black person that would do that to us transgender would be charged with a hate crime, would be flagged. And if it was the other way around, then you can bet this would have been viral. They would have been calling that toxic masculinity. Yeah. If this was the other way around, it would be toxic masculinity. Right. I mean, he's seen it. He's out of it. He got attacked by a transgender. I mean, I get it. A lot of women around, they maybe couldn't help. White boy could have helped with the pink shirt. You know, let's see who's in on it or something. I'm just saying receipts. Now, imagine if a self-identified Christian. Imagine if that same black man got in a fight and beat up the transgender. That would have been viral. It would have possibly been called a hate crime. It would have spread like wildfire. But you didn't hear about this though, right? You didn't hear about this. That only got 37,000 likes. That's a lot of likes, actually. Oh yeah, by the way, they're taking the like system off of Instagram. Why? Because obviously Instagram is lit with our people doing the most when it comes to pushing our agenda for liberation. So when we're pushing that agenda, now they're gonna offset the algorithm by saying we don't even need no likes. We don't even need no likes no more. They're seeing that we're taking over the social media, Black Twitter, being able to influence all kinds of things. They're seeing this, so that's why you have to like and do all that extra. But you also have not just like, subscribe, comment, and do all that to make sure you can throw off the algorithms that's against us. But we also have to start supporting our own platforms like melanatedpeople.net. You can also find it in the App Store, but I'll put the link in this video. So I'm showing you right here what's going on with this agenda. Why it's a toxic rainbow. It's a toxic person who attacked a man for no reason on the subway because she couldn't stand hearing gospel music being sung. Something in her just had to, and I'm not making this a religious thing, but I mean, let's just keep it real. The irony of this is that a lot of the Christians were silent while this movement was going on, even though they knew that they like to condemn everybody else. But the toxic rainbow got a pass, and no good deed goes unpunished, and now it's coming back against them. But it's not just coming back against them; it's against society. Not the fact that people want to live their own life. That's their business. But now this agenda has emboldened because they've been able to force their way. Just as Michael Swift stated in 1987 in the Gay Manifesto, they're going to bombard and sodomize. That means they're going to take by force the different elements of society and make you have to praise it. And you can't speak against it. He said all these things. These were his words, not mine. So when y'all hear me talking about this agenda and you think I'm just saying it because I'm homophobic or because I don't like them just because of their preference, I don't care what they do in the bed. But we have seen from this agenda, not only have they taken over politics, not only have they taken over the schools, Not only did they take over the civil rights, and now they included the LGBT to be able to weigh in on the reparations movement, which is why the first congressional hearing for the reparations movement had that outwardly homosexual dude who has a video of him dancing on a pole with his underwears and all kind of other salacious stuff. They chose him to represent our needs for reparations, and of course he said we don't need reparations. But why they use him? Because he's in with the LGBT, which is mostly white people. So now they have the LGBT as part of the Equality Act of 1964. Now remember, the vast majority of LGBT are privileged white people, older privileged white people. I guess the younger ones too now. But they're going to use the poster boy to infiltrate the reparations movement, and he's going to say you don't need it. Now, where did this guy come from? This dude had less followers than me on Instagram. I'm pretty sure after that congressional hearing thing, he probably got bigger now. But he had less followers than me on social media. How they just pick him out, but they skipped over Dr. Claude Anderson? They skipped him, but they picked him, but they skipped Cynthia McKinney or Farrakhan or even maybe even Eric, Michael Dyson or whatever dude's name is. They didn't even use like the Roland Martin. They didn't even go to Roland Martins or Jesse Jackson or Al Sharptons. But they just picked some salacious, unknown, wannabe rapper who's been a gay advocate for years, who went on white platforms to say that systematic oppression doesn't exist, and somehow came up with the number that 2 out of 3 black people don't believe that there's a such thing as systematic racism. I don't know where he got those numbers, where he polled. I don't know where I don't know where he polled. Pause to get those numbers. I'm saying this is what it is. So like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that good stuff. Liberation Minded Media, anything Liberation Minded Media, make sure that you check it out. Black Guy Stand Nation or Black Guy Stand Radio is falling back for now to do some other things, but the Liberation Minded Media is still lit. It's still the number one source of information for our people. Whole different varieties of ways that they do it from different platforms like My Skin Is My Sin and Do the Knowledge Radio and The Rundown with Renee, Shabaka's Black Experience, and MBK and other affiliates. You know, it's the number one thing popping, and it's gonna start lapping these cats because we're gonna offset the algorithms first by your support, but we going down deep into the grid and reprogramming. And part of that includes our own platforms, which you can look forward to coming out. But we still have what do we got? We got Melanated People, Black Spot. I don't know if Black Junction is still popping. Saying just support some stuff, man. We gotta offset this. Also, blockchain crypto gang. I'm telling you, you need to start learning about blockchain technology and cryptocurrency because it's coming out 2020. Subscribe to the Crypt Talk Podcast YouTube channel. Learn about cryptocurrency. I do some gaming there if you're interested in that. I'll be doing some programming and coding tutorials at some point 2020. And what else I can say? Also, online poker from crypto-friendly sites. So you want to make sure you check that out. Crypt Talk Podcast as well. That's also on Anchor and Spotify and other places where podcasts are distributed. I hope I didn't leave out anything, but I mean, just think about this, man. I'm telling you about racist algorithms and toxic rainbows.